Well, let's get more from our correspondent Phil Mercer, who's in Sydney for us. Phil, it's lunchtime in Australia, so there's a lot of reaction there and a lot of pressure on the captain, Steve Smith.
Well, one commentator here has described this as a stain that will never go away. The reaction here in Australia has been absolutely furious. There have been widespread calls for the captain, Steve Smith, to step down. And just listening to Talkback Radio a few moments ago, a panel discussion was considering this issue. They say that the reputation of Australian cricket is in tatters, and they also believe, some of these panel members on the radio here, that perhaps Steve Smith and other members of the Australian cricket team don't simply realise the enormity of what they've done. And we do know that Cameron Bancroft has admitted ball tampering, and Steve Smith, the captain, as we heard earlier, saying that he's embarrassed and he's sorry. But this certainly is a story that is provoking a furious reaction here.
Can you give us a sense of how extraordinary this is, given Australia is really one of the top teams in the world?
Australia loves to play its cricket extremely hard with a very tough competitive edge, and in the past, when there have been incidents of ball tampering, Australia has invariably taken the moral high ground in all of this. And we've heard from the former Australian skipper Michael Clarke talking on commercial television here earlier. He said that this incident of ball tampering was disgraceful and outright cheating. So this is a huge problem for Australian cricket. Cricket is the national sport in this country, and it's often said that the most important office in this country is that of Prime Minister. The second most important is the office of the cricket captain of the Australian team. So that just gives you a sense as to how important cricket is in this country, and these allegations of cheating will, as we say, create a furious reaction here.
Now, we might be hearing some sort of comment from Cricket Australia coming up in the coming hours or so, but can you give us a sense of why what Bancroft did was wrong? What can you do with the ball in cricket and what can't you do?
Well, simply, you can't use a so-called foreign object to tamper with the ball. Now, there are legal ways to alter the smoothness of one side of the ball to help it swing or to make it behave unpredictably in the air. There are legal ways to do that, and that's been part of cricket for many, many years, to make the job of the batsman tougher and to make it easier for the bowler to get them out. But what Cameron Bancroft appears to have done using a foreign object, we understand that it was sticky tape that had very strong adhesive that was laced with dirt to rough up one side of the ball to make it swing or move unpredictably in the air. And that's simply what you can't do. Using a so-called foreign object is well and truly against the laws of cricket.
All right, Phil Mercer in Sydney. I'm sure everyone's asking what on earth were they thinking, but we'll keep everyone up to date with this story as it develops. Phil Mercer in Sydney, thank you very much. Speak to Assistant Professor of Sociology, Kevin Wozniak. He's at the University of Massachusetts and has conducted research in US public opinion on gun control. I wonder if you can tell me, first of all, how much support there is for tighter gun control and how that support might have changed over the years in the US.
One way that we measure overall public support for gun control is asking a general question: do you think that laws governing the sale of firearms should be more strict or less strict? And the percentage of the American public who says that these laws should be made more strict declined from the early 1990s until about 2012, when it reached a point where a minority of Americans said the laws should be more strict. But following the 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, that number has been rising, and it recently reached 67% of the public who says that these laws should be more strict. And this is about the highest it's been since about 1994. So it does feel like the Parkland shooting has made a bit of a difference.
There's certainly different types of policy being debated about gun control, but what a lot of these young people have been talking about in these marches is restrictions on semi-automatic weapons. What kind of support is there on that?
That is a very divisive question. The best poll data we have show that the American public is roughly evenly divided, about 50-50, on the question of banning the sale or possession of semi-automatic weapons. So that proposal might be quite controversial.
In the end, doesn't really matter what kind of public support there is. Isn't it really about how much will there is in Congress to make changes and how popular or how powerful the NRA is?
Correct. The NRA has long been recognized as a very powerful actor in American politics in regards to gun policy, and particularly since the Republican Party has been in control of Congress since the middle years of President Obama's administration. They have blocked all efforts to bring forward new types of gun control legislation in Congress. And interestingly, a new poll that was just released in the past couple of days from the Wall Street Journal and NBC News indicated that for the first time, more people in America, about 40%, are saying that they hold a negative opinion of the NRA, as opposed to about 37% saying that they hold a favorable opinion of the NRA. And that's a flip. It used to be a bit the opposite of that. And taken together with the fact that in just the past couple of weeks, the state of Florida in its state legislature did pass new gun control legislation, even though it's completely controlled by the Republican Party in that state. That feels very different and very new. Republican-controlled legislatures haven't been willing to enact new gun control legislation for many, many years now. And in fact, the NRA is deeply opposed to the new Florida law. They have sued the state of Florida in federal court, arguing that their new law is unconstitutional. So this new turn of the mass public against the NRA and the willingness of some Republican politicians who are in power in our country to put forward new gun control proposals, this does feel like a new shift that seems to be a function of the Parkland shooting and the new mobilization of the survivors.
All right, we'll have to wait and see how much that shift develops into any sort of action. Kevin Wozniak from the University of Massachusetts, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Let's just bring you some breaking news now on that ball tampering incident by the Australian cricket team. Now, this news has just come in. The Chief Executive of Cricket Australia, James Sutherland, has spoken, and he has said that the ball tampering incident was a very sad day for the game in Australia, and he said the organisation was carrying out an urgent internal investigation to get to the bottom of what happened. And he also said what was seen on the field was extremely disappointing, and added that all of the evidence had to be gathered before decisions were taken about whether the team captain should keep his job. And of course, lots of questions being asked about the team captain's role in this. So that's just come in, and we'll keep you up to date as that story continues to develop. Now, Cambridge has beaten Oxford in commanding manner to win the 164th University men's boat race in gloomy conditions on the River Thames. Earlier, Cambridge also won the women's race in emphatic fashion, beating their rivals by 7 lengths in just over 19 minutes. John Watson was riverside for both. Now, before we go, cities around the world have been marking Earth Hour, when people are asked by environmental groups to come together to make a contribution to tackling climate change. Well, these are pictures from London. You may recognise Buckingham Palace, Tower Bridge and Piccadilly Circus. It's the 11th time the Earth Hour has been held. If you do plan to turn your lights out, then the time to do it is at 8:30 in the evening where you are. So those pictures of Earth Hour, which has been happening around the world. Much more coming up on BBC World News.